There you go. So we've started recording and this will be available to everybody after the webinar. Thank you. Handing over to you, Keith.
Thank you, Karen. So welcome everyone to our webinar, Unleashing the Power of Intelligent Automation. Today we've got a StarCast panel for you. The agenda we're going to cover is pretty straightforward, a few introductions. We're going to scene set on intelligent automation so that everybody's got a standard level of understanding, go into the benefits, few real world problems, and then the demonstration. We'll close off with some Q&A. On the panel, you have myself, Keith Stagner from TMPAC, Phil Pentland from Soroco, Andrew Gildenberg from Amazon, and Karen, who opened us up, also from TMPAC. Just a quick overview of TMPAC. We've been around for 17 years. We are intelligent automation specialists. Our flagship projects are with NHS Blood and Transplant, where we built the solution that performs the matching for all organ donations across the UK. That's 7 different organs it's managed, 365 days a year, 24/7, absolutely life critical solution. And the matching, which is the offering out to transplant surgeons. We've also done several lab automation projects for them for stem cell research, blood typing, and a number of other projects. HSBC, just to give you a feel for a private sector customer, we were asked by HSBC to prepare a business plan, define the business architecture, and then implement solution to standardize their onboarding of new customers to the retail bank across 20 countries. So that was a single solution, a single business architecture for credit cards, mortgages, and personal loans. We rolled out the first 7 implementations. That was 6 countries and then 2 brands in Hong Kong, because there's two banks they own there, and then trained the internal team to complete that rollout. I'll talk a little bit more about the NHSBT as we get into the session. You can see a few of our customers there. We selected some from public sector, private sector, legal, logistics, manufacturing, communications, etc. Just to give you an overview of what we do, we improve customer journeys. So people use the term customer journey mapping, business processes, value streams, whichever term you want to use. It's about understanding the way work happens today, identifying waste and taking that out, and identifying problems and removing those problems. We do that with both manual techniques using Lean Six Sigma, and more recently over the last few years with automated techniques using process mining tools, particularly Soroco, which is the leader in the industry. We also automate those customer journeys with intelligent automation tools, which I'm going to define on the next slide. But when we talk about intelligent automation, we're talking about process mining, chatbots, robots, artificial intelligence, workflow. And then we extend that definition a little bit to pick up this third point, which is benefit realization dashboards to actually report the benefits that are being realized. We try and work differently than some vendors in the market, in that we are very focused on outcomes and having an impact on every organization that we work with, ensuring that every organization is a case study. We do that by clearly defining and investing up front to define the benefits. Those benefits are more than just replacing some human labor with a bit of technology, which is kind of the schoolboy answer. We really have developed over the last decade quite a thorough benefit analysis approach to help build out a business case that's compelling. We guarantee success by once we work together and get a definition of scope that we can agree, then we'll fix price and we take responsibility for delivering, overcoming not only obstacles that we run across, but obstacles you come across in your organization, and supporting our customers with that. Each of our delivery includes free assets, IP, and accelerators. And we encourage all customers to take up our benefit dashboard because that gives us the opportunity to demonstrate the benefits that have been delivered, whether it be cost savings, new additional revenue, improved cash flow, or reduced costs through one of many levers. And we fully understand that our customers want to be in control of their own destiny, so we build into our approach a skills transferring. We've got a proven three-step approach to transfer skills, confidence, and experience into your organization so you can continue delivering these projects on your own. Just to level set on intelligent automation for a second, when we talk about intelligent automation, as I mentioned previously, these are the technologies that we're talking about. Individually, each one of them is incredibly powerful, but when you put them together, you get something an order of magnitude better. Whether we use the term process mining or task mining, or as starting to be called work graphing, the technology that can monitor the work that's being performed by staff in real time, record that, what's happening, measure that back against a baseline, is what falls in that category. Soroco, as I said, is the leading tool in this field, and is our partner that we work with. And one of the really powerful things about Soroco is you just install on a staff's laptop or desktop, and within 48 hours, you've already got visibility of the work that's being performed. One of the key things that you're looking for in process mining is discovery, compliance, and enhancement. From a discovery point of view, Soroco really stands out from the herd because, as opposed to the older technologies which only extracted data from IT system logs, the Soroco technology, it really expands that and picks up the glue that holds all that together. So interactive messaging, whether it be Teams or some other tool, emails. So instead of just getting 20% of the process mapped as if you just captured what happens in IT systems, you get closer to 85 or 90% of the process. Of course, we don't have technology today that maps phone calls and decisions, but any correspondence about that would be picked up. Phil, who's on the call, is going to talk a bit more about that later. Chatbots, I think everybody's familiar with chatbots, but they've moved on enormously over the last even 3 years. So the chatbots that we work with aren't the ones that our grandfathers were familiar with. More than 50 languages. Slide is a bit old, supporting all numerous channels, including most of the social media channels that you can think of. Supporting voice, chat, social media, seamless handoff between chatbots and agents, and return a round trip back, and very easy to define and evolve, particularly with some of the better tools. We tend to work with Druid, that is AI powered, so it learns from the conversations. It gets smarter and smarter. I'm sure everybody's familiar with robotic process automation, typically thought of as glorified macros, a way of automating work and reducing labor. In reality, what chatbots enable you to do is think about things differently. You can do things with robots that you can't do otherwise. And when you combine robots with chatbots who help to understand and determine what a customer wants, and artificial intelligence that makes complex decisions, you get a really powerful layer that you can enhance the technology you have today without replacing any of your existing systems. Artificial intelligence, we're not talking about, it's predicted that artificial intelligence will be smarter than the average human by 2025, which is literally around the corner now, just 3 years away. But we're not really talking about general AI. We're not talking about Skynet or Terminator. We're talking about prepackaged solutions. And we've got Andrew on the call is going to talk to us a little bit about some of the suite of capability that Amazon offers, particularly some of their we particularly use quite a number of their AI tools that are already predefined, pre-trained. You use them as a service. Only thing that you need to add on top is your additional training to customize for maybe some specific use cases or language in your particular industry. Really, really powerful capability. Just to give you an example of how AI is being used, there's a fire brigade in London that is using pictures sent from a mobile phone from people on the scene to determine what type of fire it is. They've got an AI engine that looks on that evaluates the photo based on the color of the fire, based on various attributes. It can determine whether it's a chemical fire or a normal fire, and ensure that the fire brigade is dispatched with the right safety equipment. And the benefit reporting dashboard, I'm going to touch on that again in another slide or two, but really it's about evidence that you've actually delivered what you set out to deliver at the beginning, which is so hard to get out of your IT systems, trying to drag this out of logs or out of individuals. Actually being able to calculate specifically based on not just the process, but the scenario through the process, what benefits were delivered, where how many percentage of transactions are actually being automated, what percentage are not, and of the ones that haven't been automated, how can you continue that the continuous improvement initiatives you can take to make them better and increase your throughput and increase the benefits. So I put a yellow box here in the middle to highlight the chatbots, robots, and AI is what most people think of when they think of intelligent automation, because these are the tools that you put into your operational environment. But to identify where to actually make those improvements is where process mining or task mining comes in. And so it substantially reduces your analysis effort and is much more accurate than you would ever get with stopwatch, pencil, and paper. And the benefit reporting dashboard, many of these tools have an ROI capability within them, but that is generally limited to a certain number of factors. We've built into the benefit reporting dashboard a very flexible approach that allows us to calculate a number of different factors for benefits. So just touching on task mining, Phil, could I hand over to you to cover this slide?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Gee, woke up with an echo. Oh, okay, that's gone. Good. Yes, hi. So I'm Phil from Soroco. So Soroco is a technology platform that helps you discover where intelligent automation can make a difference in your business. It does this through the use of a desktop agent that breaks down all of the behaviors at a user level to clicks and keystrokes, and through a semantic layering builds that back up to identify tasks and processes that people are following. And in that, we are looking for hotspots of activity, repeated patterns, high frequency of potentially menial tasks, or certainly low human effort tasks that can be levers for change. So it's a very clever way of accelerating the fact finding, the data-driven fact finding of where intelligent automation could be applied in your business. And this is a massive departure from the old-fashioned way of observing over people's shoulders what they do at their desktop, and it will bring down what you would have been weeks and months of work down into days if that's if deployed at breadth and at scale. So what we're looking at on the screen today, it flows top to bottom. So we are looking at the most kind of atomic level of interaction at desktop and building up task discovery. And in doing that, within just a couple of days, can quite often find opportunities as much as 15% of reducing manual effort through some of the levers of change. But then it gets better than that, because the aggregation of tasks or the understanding of tasks and pulling those together become processes. And in understanding a process end to end, we get further savings or identification of savings by further looking at different levers, not just automation, intelligent automation, but user training, standardization of input, standardization of output. And all of these things become very, very apparent because we're able to inspect the elements on the screen at any one time. And at this point in the conversation, normally people say, but surely that means that you're recording the screens and that you are picking up PII or otherwise sensitive information. And this is one of the beauties of Soroco that put us at the top of our field, is that we do not capture sensitive information or PII. That is all scrubbed at the source on the desktop. before it even leaves the user's desktop for analysis. So it is fully GDPR compliant. It does pass the rigor of workers' councils. So all of this analysis comes into what we call our work insights, where these levers are identified. And from there, we export to our studio. And this is a accelerant to results. So having found all of this information, we can now interact with an ecosystem, a massive ecosystem of other technology players, whether they're RPA providers or BPM diagrammatic modelers, and the list goes on. But the output of Soroco at this point can be things like RPA code. So having inspected the user's interaction, we can write the code for the bot that would replace those little tasks, those little micro moments. So it is those micro moments at a mass that create the savings. We also output to BPMN2 diagrams. We output to PDD or standard operating procedure documentation, and lots of accelerants to results and the output of the Soroco Studio. So kind of in summary of this whole thing, the purpose of Soroco is to make very visible, using the data from your users' interactions with their systems of record, make very visible where the opportunities lie for the best intelligent automation projects. Where will you get the biggest bang for your buck? Where are the levers that will create the biggest change in your business? Keith, I'll hand back to you there and continue the talk.
So we've spoken a little bit about process mining. To pick up on the systems that would be integrated in with your IT systems or sit above them and expand them. I really just wanted to paint a visual of to imagine your enterprise architecture. So you've got a layer of communication with your customers. Traditionally, it would be your call centers, your office, a post box. In over the last few decades, included websites, social media, and increasingly people have included web chat into that. But building artificial intelligence tools into that layer that can actually have human-like conversations to understand what someone is asking for, not having to go through a pick list of press 1 for this, 2 for that, but a standard language conversation where it understands the context, and from that context can determine what it is that they want, and then can route that request to the right place in your organization. That routing then gets sent to some service processing layer, whether that's within your call center team or elsewhere. These are the people that actually fulfill the requests once they're understood. That's traditionally been done almost exclusively by staff or by a few websites where people could do a bit of self-care, but increasingly that's being automated with robots and artificial intelligence. And then, of course, you've got your backend systems where a lot of data about your customers are stored, regardless of what industry you're in. I think we chose mostly local council systems as an example, revenue bins, housing, social care for this diagram. But we also include a patient care system just as a nod to healthcare. But these systems store data, they carry the transaction forward, but getting data into them, out of them, and all the small decisions that are made around how to use them, when to update them, how to ensure data quality, is where an enormous amount of time and effort is spent, and where there is a huge opportunity for eroding the customer experience. So by standardizing and automating this across chatbots, robots, and artificial intelligence, gives you the opportunity to massively improve customer experience and very quickly get a return on investment. So you're reducing your operating costs as well. I just wanted to spend 1 minute touching on the benefit dashboard. There's a couple of screen prints here. The one on the left is a top level dashboard where you can see you could choose any time span over a couple of days, couple of months, a few years, and get an idea on the amount of savings. The one that's on the screen at the moment was done for a local council where we've done 2 projects for them. One related to asbestos reporting, and another one related to dealing with old housing records and images and files that were sent through from environmental services. The secondary one, which is volumes dashboard on it, that's one of the continuous improvement dashboards where you start to see the volume of transactions over time. There's another screen which I don't have up here, which shows the different scenarios through one of the process, because a process isn't the same for one customer than another. It depends on what data is encountered and what their needs are. So you can start to get visibility of which scenarios through the process have been followed and which one of those were completed, which one of those led to a handoff that had to be given back to staff. That's where we've been particularly successful, coming in and using that data to go back to staff, to clarify, to go back to the frontline staff and understand, well, what do you do when we hand this back to you? When we designed it the first time, you couldn't really identify the rules, but when we're looking at this, we can see from the data there's 3 or 4 patterns that repeat again and again. Could we define some rules that allow us to automate more of these transactions? So it builds in that continuous improvement life cycle into the project, so they don't just die, delivering 80% of the value. You can continue to increase that over time. Just to touch on the benefits for intelligent automation, there's a lot of bullets here, so I'm not going to read through all of those, but I've touched on customer service, talked about extending timeframes. But the one that I think is more exciting is personalization, being able to communicate with your customers in the language they want, over the channels that they choose, and that could be different channels for different types of correspondence, and providing cross-system insights, so pulling data from 3 or 4 different IT systems before communicating back. So you've got a full picture of the customer, and you're really giving them, leveraging the data that you have to provide that very personalized service. Whether you're public or private sector, it's always ensuring profitability or ensuring the delivery within budget is quite important, whether that's increasing revenue, improving the cash flow, getting debts paid, or minimizing expenditure so you can protect services. One of the areas that is most interesting related to intelligent automation is the ability to scale, and that you can actually deliver more service with fewer staff, or with the staff that you have already, freeing capacity for staff to get involved in other improvement other transformation projects, while not support you can give. Real-time service, so the opportunity to provide service or generate revenue while your office is closed, but also increasing push from many central government organizations to try and reach a large percentage of the services that are self-serve and available. Rather than having to replace all of your existing service to get services online, you can add that online layer with intelligent automation. Increasing intelligence, one is that's often overlooked. When we spend time doing business process redesign and looking at how we can improve process, we find inevitably that a root cause of many of the issues with the process are from the first steps of the process where data is entered and there aren't sufficient checks on data quality. So garbage goes in, garbage comes out, creates issues right across your organization, particularly difficult to unwind further as you go further and further downstream. So ensuring the data quality going in, and also streamlining it and automating the work is quite important. And finally, ensuring compliance. We've done quite a lot of work in retail banking over the years. And in its heyday, there were entire compliance teams that would just spring up like cottage industries. Dozens of people just checking the work that other people do to make sure that they do it correctly. That's because humans at their best are 85% accurate, which means 15% of all data we enter is wrong. Typos, mistakes, oversights. We skip steps, we add extra steps, we decide that something went wrong once, so we're going to add extra checks in. And these kind of things just destroy the ability to verify the work against the regulations And most of the regulators are looking for you to say what you're going to do what you say, demonstrate that back against regulation. So by embedding that activity in a piece of automation, it'll be done consistently, time after time, which frees people from the stuff they're not really good at, which is data entry and mundane, repetitive tasks. I'm going to fly through a few real life projects with you. I chose 3 examples from 3 different industries. The first is NHS blood and transplant. Just to flesh that story out a little bit. So NHS blood and transplant had built an in-house solution they called the National Transplant Database. The National Transplant Database was built on technology over many, many years. And it got to a point where it was really difficult for them to maintain, and it wasn't compatible with a lot of the other systems that they were using. Additionally, they had a team that was reaching retirement, some very talented, long-serving staff in the duty office that dealt with organ donations, and knew all the quirks of how to use the system and the way it worked and the things it didn't do. So they were really facing a major upheaval, just as legislation was changing to ensure that that we all become organ donors by default. You have to opt out rather than opt in. So they were expecting a massive increase in the number of organs that they could offer up to patients, and challenges in dealing with that. So our approach wasn't just to come in and automate some processes. It was to work together with the team to redefine how they work today, to map out the steps across their process, while ensuring that we complied with the approved clinical patient pathways, and to minimize the effort for the duty office, and to take away variability and uncertainty. So what we delivered was a solution that supports the organ donation and organ matching, which I mentioned at the beginning of the call. Organ donation, organ matching and organ offering. Organ matching is a very complex process because people become increasingly intolerant of variability in the organs. So if I have a liver transplant, I will need another one if I live long enough, and I'm not as tolerant of livers as I was before. So we need to consider mass, DNA, blood type, the whole slew of factors, and those change on each organ. And we need to do it 100% correct every single time, or there'll be a cost, and potentially lives are at risk. For the matching, so for the offering, once an organ match has taken place, we've identified the patients that could best benefit from the organ. We have to ensure that that organ is transplanted into a new patient within 4 hours of it being removed from a donor. And so that means we have a massive parallel processing, because we have up to 7 organs we could be trying to match, quite often at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And if there's more than one donor who's available, that's 7 organs times 3 transplant surgeons we work at. So it's 21 organs, 21 matches we're trying to manage per donor. You can imagine if you got 3 or 4 donors, there's quite a lot of information being exchanged back and forth, very detailed clinical information. So that needed to be 100% accurate. It needed to be thoroughly tested and quality assured. So the approach that we use is we built that on a process intelligent automation layer, and we lifted it out of the National Transplant Database, and we left all the old functionality, the standard functionality like updating data fields in the system. So the National Transplant Database still runs today, but it doesn't do matching and offering. We built that out on a cloud-based automation solution. Debt recovery. This is for a local council. They had a clever little solution, allowed people to sign up for direct debit over the web, and that system would capture your details, and it would then match that against the revenue benefit system, and then it would enter your direct debit details, and the revenue benefit system would communicate with finance system, and they would collect debt automatically. The challenge was that the solution didn't match quite often, because people sometimes have 5 names. They might have 2 names entered their first and last name entered into the revenue benefit system. When they go onto the website for direct debit, they may use their third name and their last name. So many of us I have 3 names. Many people have 5 now. And if there's any typos or mistakes, that just exasperate it. So there were thousands and thousands of mismatches that were having to be handled manually. So we automated this with, again, intelligent automation solution. The first iteration that we built, I think was about 73% or 74% of the transactions were able to be matched up. But then we looked at, we went into our continuous improvement cycle, and we started evaluating the data that was coming out and saying, well, why aren't we able to match more of these? And so we sat down, we looked at the patterns, we went back to the team that was dealing with the exceptions, and we're able to agree with them some more rules that they were uncomfortable defining in the first iteration, and we got it up to 82%. We had a third iteration, and we're now up to about 93% of all transactions go through. There's some where the data is just so inaccurate, you need to go back to the customer. But I shared this one because I thought it was a nice little example of where we had used that data coming out of the continuous improvement process to make the solution better and better over time. And the last one, I wanted to bring one out of public sector. So this was manufacturing distribution, depends on which way you look at it. So it's a company that makes components for other manufacturers. And what they do is they have a very clever approach where they forecast the need for their customers, and they proactively replenish stock so that their customers never get down to never run out of parts. So they define a threshold, they monitor the usage over time, and they proactively make parts and ship them out. But the firm had grown due to its success. They had 4 different manufacturing plants. They had a slew of warehouses scattered around the south of England, and so it was a real difficulty for them to schedule the loading, delivering, and delivering of these parts. It was taking longer and longer on a Friday to plan this out, because most of these shipments would go out on the weekend, and they were facing either increased cost, for more frequent shipments, or increased time for their staff working longer hours, and then that would have led to more mistakes. They also had some feedback from their customers that really appreciated the service, but it wasn't always convenient at the time that they delivered. So they wanted proactive notification of when the deliveries would occur, so they can make arrangements for receipt of goods. So we built a solution that automated this process, did all the calculations, defined for the teams which trucks to load, the order to load them, the routes that they should deliver, and automatically sent notifications out, allowing contingency for the typical types of delays that the customer was encountering with traffic and what have you. The solution's been running as a subscription for the customer for I think 4.5, 5 years now, and it's just gone from strength to strength. So it runs 24/7. It's given work-life balance back to some staff that were working quite long hours. It's eliminated partial loads, which was called also a cost factor for them, where they had a truck going out with only 2 or 3 boxes in it because they'd missed something, or they were unable to drop it off when they showed up at the customer site. So partial loads have virtually been eliminated. So I wanted to hand over to Phil again. We're going to give you a little bit of a sneak preview via a pre-recorded video of how process mining works. Well, if I can just hit the button here for you. Oh, sorry. There you go. Hit the right button now.
Understanding where your transformation journey should begin can be a daunting challenge. Scout's Task Discovery can help you identify 15% plus of toil reduction, in 48 hours, at scale for thousands of users, and with zero manual intervention. Task Discovery quickly uncovers hotspots of opportunities across any of the 6 categories available. You have the power to slice and dice the granular Scout data collected from all the users by locations, teams, or roles of your team members. Or view your opportunities by the applications, documents, or emails used in your team's tasks. To begin your transformation journey, pick the hotspot with the highest toil in its category, and dive deeper to understand your team's work patterns in more detail. You can visualize the most common activities in this hotspot and reorganize them into topics that makes intuitive sense for your business users. The individual tasks within a hotspot provide key metrics like toil or average handling time. This will also help you understand which of your team's tasks are repetitive. If you recognize a set of these tasks to be a part of your process, you can select and export them into Process Discovery to construct a process. Additionally, you can export them directly into Scout Studio. Studio lets you convert your tasks into a BPMN-compatible output, generate a process document, auto-create an RPA bot, or generate Python code for any automation platform. In summary, Scout Task Discovery delivers quick insights at scale, identifies hotspots of opportunity, and generates actionable outputs to help you find 15% plus toil reduction potential in 48 hours at scale and with zero manual intervention.
So, Phil, did you want to add something there?
No, not unless there are any specific questions around what we've just seen, but we can probably take those at the end in the Q&A.
Okay, thank you. So now hand over to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit about some of Amazon's amazing capability for delivering intelligent automation. Andrew?
Thanks. Yeah, so at Amazon, we are users of both our AWS technology and UiPath's RPA platform. I'm using this example here of a real use case that we implemented at Amazon in our global risk and claims department. That kind of shows how these technologies plug and play together and can solve real end-to-end problems in collaboration with each other. So our use case was automating document processing from what we have mail coming in from the Canadian Workplace Safety Board. So before this project, we had a person that would physically drive to the post office, sort through all of the mail, scan them into separate documents, and then manually upload those documents into our risk management system and take certain actions depending on the type of document and the information included. Unfortunately, we can't really automate the fact that somebody needs to go collect and scan this mail, but we were able to automate all of the downstream steps, again, with UiPath and AWS technology working together. So after this project, the way that this workflow would work is the admin would collect the mail and scan it into just one PDF. So saving the time of having to sort through and categorize all of the different documents. They would drop that PDF file to an RPA bot. That bot would use one of AWS's intelligent document processing capabilities, so Textract. It's a service that will take a scanned document and extract all of the data and the field labels and pass you back all of the key value pairs and tables found in that document. So the UiPath bot would call that service, receive the data back, and be able to use that information to split apart the different PDFs, categorize them into one of 8 different document types. Now, obviously, with any scanned documents, and sometimes there's some non-standard documents coming in via mail. A lot of times you'll need some sort of a human in the loop type workflow. So UiPath's Action Center tool is a great tool for that. You can see the screenshot on the bottom right of what that tool looks like. But it's a way to route exceptions for a human review and have a quick and easy validation station for them where they can correct details or enter any missing details. So any exception documents are routed directly to our users. That Action Center product is underpinned by another AWS service, Amazon S3, which is our simple storage service. That allows us to upload the documents and their metadata into a storage bucket to make it easily accessible within UiPath Action Center to render on the screen for the user. And then lastly, any of the documents that were either routed through Action Center to the user or were able to be straight through processed are carried downstream by another RPA bot, which takes the documents, uploads them to individual claims within our risk management system, and takes action of notifying different stakeholders depending on the type of document and the contents. So this project, saved over 1,000 hours of work for a Canadian workers' compensation team, and is a great example of how AWS technologies and UiPath RPA technologies can work together to solve real problems.
Thanks, Andrew. The final bit before we go into Q&As, we wanted to share a demonstration showing you a few of these technologies working together. Andrew had a nice example there where he talked about Textract, which is a AI service from Amazon Web Services, S3, which is a cloud infrastructure, plus the UiPath working together. We're going to come at it from the other angle. We're going to show you a chatbot carrying on a very human-like conversation, understanding what it is that's required, and then triggering a robot that will then go in and perform actions on IT systems to fulfill that request. So we built this example off of a use case that was defined by Hounslow. Hounslow Council wanted to demonstrate how technology could help with mental health. And they'd already done quite a lot to help this individual called Brendan remain in his home. So there were various services that would take care of him from a health and a well-being point of view. We built on that and extended that to say, well, let's imagine in this scenario that his daughter notices that his address is incorrect on his post. Brendan has gone to the front of his building, and collected his post, even though it had the wrong flat number on it for years. Never bothered to put in a change of address because all of his neighbors understood it was his mail and didn't he could collect it. But now that he's now he's got dementia, we can't rely on that. So Brendan's daughter wants his address rerouted across so that she receives it and she can deal with it for him. Excuse me. So we look at this. We're looking at what Brendan's daughter's doing as the customer, what the chatbot's doing to understand the request, what the robot's doing to fulfill the request, and what the IT system is doing to provide the functions needed for that fulfillment. So we start off by determining and authorizing the service. We then are going to provide the service, and then we're going to close off by confirming. And the reason we're confirming is to avoid those repeat calls that come in so often into call centers. I hope you can see my screen. Somebody speak up if you can.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so let me just pause for a second. So what we're seeing on the left here, this gray box with the blue across the top that says T-Impact Hector the Chatterbox. That is a mobile phone emulator. So that is casting onto one of my staff's desktop what he's seeing on his mobile phone. We didn't record the first bit of it, but he accessed this by clicking on a link on our website, which brought up a screen because he was using his mobile phone. That screen came up on this phone. On the right-hand side, where it says UiPath in the top left, there's a black box. That is a window onto an Amazon Web Service cloud infrastructure. What we'll see there is as you get, as a UiPath robot is being triggered and running in that infrastructure, we'll see boxes march up the screen. When you get a few of them, they just look like they jiggle. So we're starting off in just demonstrating we can choose a couple of languages. So we start with Spanish and English. They choose English. And you can see as they're entering data, it's very normal communication. It's not choosing from a pick list or anything. And we've intentionally misspelled father there. Don't know if you noticed it. And the system understands the context. We've designed the workflow to be very chatty, to really, conduct as if you were, having a conversation with someone. So it's responding to every prompt, kind of guiding them, encouraging them. So here's the first bit of data, and you see the green boxes pop up on the right. The chatbot is taken 6991, sent it to the robot, said, look this up in the access control and see if they have, if they're authorized. The robot returned response to the chatbot and say, no, they're not. The chatbot has a much more human conversation explaining, sorry, it's not correct. Are you sure you have the right device? And the person's going to re-enter their number 5441. So you see the robot moved on the, you see the robot taking another action on the right. At this point, we validated that that's correct. We've returned that to the chatbot, and we're seeing some more information. We're asking for the postcode, which again, the chatbot sends to the robot. The robot goes and looks it up in the address file and returns a series of addresses, all happen to be on Percy Road. That's the human just scrolling through to choose the correct address, trying to avoid any data entry so we don't have any typos. This perspective, we're validating and getting a positive confirmation that this is the address that you want to change. And what's happening is the robot's now been told to go ahead and sign into Liquid Logic. Not sure if you saw that, signed in with their credentials, and is now searching for Brendan Smith. Found the record, and now is going to change the address as requested. You probably notice that you don't see character by character coming up. You see entire field populated. That's because the robot isn't actually typing, it's cutting and pasting as it moves through. So quick as that, we finished the update to Liquid Logic, and that's actually been slowed down in debug mode so that we can follow it as a human. Now moving on to Northgate, Northgate housing system, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to look up Brendan Smith. We're going to find their address. We update their address. So we fulfilled the request, but we want to take it a step further because what happens very often is when you call into a call center, you ask somebody to do something, you don't really know if they did it or not. It's quite a common problem. A number of people have learned from this and they call back to check that the change has been made a few days later. To avoid that call coming in, what we're going to do is offer to provide them evidence that this has actually happened. So what we've done is we've taken a screen print. It's just a shortcut way of giving that evidence for both Liquid Logic and the Northgate system and emailed it back to the customer. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. So we just before we hand over to you for questions, if you raise any in the chat if you like, just wanted to offer that we've got a number of offers that we and our partners have put together. We've got trial and discounted software. We've got a quick start program from Soroco, which is an amazing deal, discounted for £1,000 for qualifying orders before September. It's limited in scope. It gives you an opportunity to actually see process mining working in your environment. UiPath has got free trial versions that you can download and work with. And we've got a similar thing available from the chatbot provider. So you have an ability to quickly get your hands on some of this amazing technology, have a little play around with it, really understand how it delivers value in your organization before making a more substantial investment. Karen, I'll hand back to you now.
Thank you. So we've got about 6 minutes left. So I've got a couple of questions to go out. So this is for Phil at Soroco. So what's the difference between task mining and process mining, and how does it support building an automation pipeline?
Yeah, it's an often asked question. Thanks, Karen. The big difference between process mining and task mining is the method of collecting the data. So in typical process mining, you're looking at a single system of record, so an ERP platform, a CRM, or something that is the backbone of the process, and you use a data connector to pull information from that system. And that connector can sometimes take some time to set up. On the flip side, task mining or task discovery is using the desktop interaction. There's a couple of ways of doing that. One is to record the screens, which some people in this industry do, but that gives you a security risk. Our method is to use the keyboard and the mouse and the interactions at an OS level to pull that information. And that means that you're not actually restricted to a single IT system, but you will see, as people move across the more unstructured applications like Excel and Outlook and Teams, etc., pulling a kind of end-to-end picture of how tasks and processes flow across your teams. So that's how we see it. In terms of how is that useful for automation and intelligent automation, it's our belief that the holistic point of view, the complete point of view as you move from application to application, is it is much more valuable in terms of where automation can lie. And in fact, that's backed up by some science that suggests that as little as 20% of a subject matter expert's work takes place in the core system of record, and that's across many industries and many different types of teams and functions. Hopefully that answers that one.
Great, thanks, Phil. So a couple more minutes. There's one here for Andrew. What specifically can AWS provide to assist with intelligent automation projects?
Yeah, well, I think the example that we gave before showed a couple of the services that can assist with intelligent automation projects from both an infrastructure perspective and from a solution perspective. S3 storage being on the infrastructure side, Textract service being on the intelligent automation solution side. To give maybe another flavor just for the question, another part of intelligent automation that the team hit on was the benefits dashboarding. We also implemented one of our own, for our Amazon program, and used a lot of AWS infrastructure to make that happen. So we were able to get bot data via APIs going from UiPath's orchestrator into an S3 storage with Redshift tables on top to give us the compute on the data, which then feeds a Tableau dashboard on top. So there's another flavor of how AWS's various technologies can play a role at any place within your intelligent automation solutions and the infrastructure that supports them.
Great, thank you very much. And one final quick question for you, Keith. So the demo of the chatbots with the robot was really impressive. I like that, but was seen as a fairly simple example. So the question is, would you attempt to implement a complex process with discretionary decisions using that same technology?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Andrew showed in his example how he had Amazon staff involved in the middle of the process. And you could do a similar thing with he approach called putting the human in the loop. So, involving a human in the middle of an automated process or at several steps in the automated process is no longer complicated. You can do the pre-processing work, hand over for a human for a discretionary decision, and then continue the updates, particularly where there might quite a number of data fields that need to be updated. So you're not limited by the complexity of the process. You're not limited by the fact that there's discretionary decisions. But if the entire process is discretionary, if there is, if it's entirely arbitrary, then there's not a lot of value in automation. So it's not about what's possible; it's about where it's feasible to get enough automation to deliver a return on investment on the work that you do.
Great, thank you very much. Well, we've come to the end of today's session, so thank you to everybody that's joined. We really hope you found it useful. As we said earlier, we'll be in touch with all of you with a copy of the recording and also some details of the offers and the different things we spoke about today. So any questions, please pop us an email at sales@timpact.com and we'll be happy to speak to you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks all. Goodbye.